Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Lomo, and welcome to my post-race Chinwag for the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The final time this year, we are here live on YouTube, audio only, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the rest. It's a pleasure to be here. Sorry to everyone here on YouTube Live. I am like 4 minutes late, which is exceptionally bad, but I forgot to do an overlay for a certain F2 champion that definitely deserves a big shout out this weekend. First of all, YouTube live chat, please let me know your race rating in the live, and then we'll get kind of a rough idea of what you give this one out of 10. Patrick, Josh, Tina, Daniel, Desktop Bodybuilding, Loel, Rami, Christopher, Halfgoal, PP, Salma, and the rest of you. What are we saying? We're seeing some 6s, 7s, 8s, 5s. Okay, we've got a pretty good range straight away. Let's get the poll going then. Race rating out of 10. Rating out of, out of 10. We're going to start with a 5 or lower. YouTube, please add more options on polls, please. A 6 or a 7 or an 8. 8 or above. You know what? I've come to not love Abu Dhabi as the season finale, but they've certainly improved the track as well. We got a lot of, of those two straights. You had Sonoda in particular. He was a big guilty of it this weekend in a good way, retaking position on that second straight, and then of course in that long left-hander you can sling it around the outside, and we saw a bunch of very, very banging moves around the outside, particularly of course from a certain Lewis Hamilton on the final lap on his teammate. Banger. But yeah, we've had more Abu Dhabi Grand Prix as the season finale than any other race. I'm sure they said that on the feed. I guess we'll see. Right, what are you saying in the poll? 42% of you giving it a 7. 36% of you have given it a 6. So most of you, and then, 16 and 8 or above, 7 or 5 or lower. Well, for me, McLaren are champions first and foremost. And it's a 6. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. 6 out of 10. Decent race by Abu Dhabi standards. There was the tension at the end. I do wish... Look, it might not have changed anything. Maybe it would have, the butterfly effect. You never know how, one innocuous decision can have a knock-on. I'm surprised they didn't pit Sainz. Would have put him down to P3 if they'd have had a good pit stop, but put him on a set of softs and, play to your outs. It felt like Ferrari were kind of, even if there had been a safety car, would they have been able to react appropriately to get the jump on Lando? Because if Sainz had got ahead of Lando and it had been a McLaren 1-3, actually, so I feel like, right, so the point swing from P1 to P2 is 16, right? Sorry, it's not 16, it's 17, isn't it? Because it's 18 points for P2, 25 for P1, that's 7 points gap. The swing, therefore, is 14 points. Now, the gap in the end was 14 points, which meant actually if Sainz had finished ahead of Norris, and obviously Magnussen was going for the fastest lap for vibes, then Piastri getting that P10 in the end and getting that 1 point would have won them the top. That would have been crazy. And all you got to say is thank you, Max. Thank you, Max, for taking out Oscar into turn 1 and giving us something to get excited for. The anticipation would have been unbelievable. But yeah, they wouldn't have got fastest lap because Magnussen, and they would have been busy fighting each other. So, Magnussen had the fastest lap on lock. That was done, But yeah, what would it have come down to in the end? It would have been, it was incredibly close in the end. 14 points over the course of a season in a Constructors' Championship fight, where, of course, there's 2 cars scoring points for the teams. Got to look back at many a missed opportunity for Ferrari, but then again, McLaren also flunked a bunch of opportunities themselves. Ultimately, I think the right team won over the course of the season in terms of performance, in terms of actually, McLaren were the quickest car. And look, it's McLaren who designed and built and developed the car, right? So you have to, if you're rating McLaren's strategy, you would put that behind Ferrari this year for sure. And to be honest, rating the drivers, I'd probably, over the course of the year, I don't know. Obviously, Lando's had his moments, but then again, he's had his unbelievable races like in Zandvoort, in Singapore, where he won by loads. Didn't put a foot wrong either, but you're going to be able to look back at so many missed opportunities, of course, for both teams, realistically. And 26 years and waiting. 98, which was 98's my earliest memory of of Formula One. the West McLaren era, the old Hakkinen era, David Coulthard as well, but Mika's the one who really sticks in my head. And yeah, it's been a long time coming for McLaren, but they finally did get the job done. And it was, it was a decent race. It was a decent race to wind it out. You're old, I know. I'm aware of that, Prithvi. In fact, I've literally got my British passport right here. I don't know why I've got it here, and it's already all like, I mean, it's fairly new, and it's already like, all. It's the print's not held up very well, is it? But yeah, I'm old. Yeah, I'm old. I'm not showing you my passport, right? That photo. Actually, my passport photo is not that bad. It's my driving license photo. That's awful. But anyway, McLaren have got it done. Well done, McLaren. A long time coming. Again, should have been sooner. Given the car, if you just look at the car in isolation, McLaren have been the best car this year. No question. But of course, a lot goes into it. And I think, not just for McLaren, but the team themselves. And I did a video earlier this year saying, McLaren and Lando aren't ready to win drivers' championships, at least anyway. But they've got the constructors over the line. They'll have learned a lot from this year. Lando said it himself. There's work to be done, for sure. But, I mean, getting the constructors over the line is a huge deal. Will McLaren, will Lando? McLaren, I think, will, for sure. I think, they'll have learned a lot from this year. Will McLaren and Lando, will McLaren with Oscar at the wheel as well? Because he's got stuff to work on. They both have. But will they get it done? That is the question. Papaya ruled. Yeah, I heard that. Papaya ruled. I was like, wow. Savagery. Got a couple of super chats I don't want to miss out. Yaramir, 17th month as a member. Love it. Thank you very much, Yaramir. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. Much appreciated. Rumour Lawson goes to RB. Thoughts should be Yuki, to be honest. He's already at RB, Daniel. What are you talking about? He's already at. Look, we'll get onto the Red Bull Checo merry-go-round continual conversation bit. The rumour does seem to be that Lawson is more primed to take that Red Bull seat than Yuki. But we are going to see Yuki in a Red Bull in the end of season test. We're going to see Lawson in the Red Bull at some point as well. And then they're going to make a decision. And it didn't go great for Checo, did it again? Not really his fault so much this time out. But yeah, he seems to be very much in I have a contract mood. And that's it. And he's not interested in saying anything more than that. So, which he does. And Red Bull gave it to him. Thank you, BB, as well, for the super chat. Yuki, Lawson, Hajar, Colapinto or Bottas for Red Bull next year. Who do you want to see and who do you believe you'll see? I mean, who do I want to see in the Red Bull alongside Max? The driver I want to see in that car is the driver who would do the best in that car. Because I want to see Red Bull, both Red Bulls, both Mercedes. Obviously, Kimi Antonelli is going to take some time, right? But in an ideal world, both Red Bulls, both Mercedes, both Ferraris and both McLarens are competitive and can win races, right? That's a stretch with Kimi Antonelli. It's a stretch with the second Red Bull driver. But the other 6 are all capable and have all done it this year multiple times. So, the driver I want to see in that seat is whoever's going to be the best in that seat and going to get the best results. I think we'll see Lawson. I think it will be Lawson. If I had to, just from all the noises we've heard, and it feels like Liam is going to be more trusted with that car than Yuki. Who do I want to see in it? I don't know. Whoever's quickest. That's who I want to see in it. That's my sit on the fence answer for that. There you go. Enjoy it. Take it. Lawson feels right. Look, I mean, Yuki did 6-0 win in qualifying, but I don't actually know what the average gap was because those head-to-heads can be very misleading. I'm not actually sure what the average gap between Yuki and Liam was in their 6 qualifying sessions together, but Yuki did get one over on Liam every single time. Although I'm not sure if that counts sprints. That's just what we're hearing around. And yes, Yuki's always deserved the Red Bull seat more than any of the others. But Red Bull's prerogative is who's going to be the best driver in that specific car with the specific nuances that come with the RB20, RB21 next year. Not who deserves it most. That's what's going to be most important to them. So we'll see. But well done. Again, I digress. Well done to McLaren. Got it done. Got it over the line. Good vibes at the end. Honestly, I did want... I like McLaren. I like Ferrari. To see Ferrari win it with Charles coming from the back and in Sainz's last race, that would have been special. That would have been really special. But I think over the course of the year, the right team did win the constructors in the end. But I would have loved to have seen Ferrari win it on the day, just given the context of how qualifying panned out. But yes, 6 out of 10 race. At least Ferrari boys both got on the podium. Unbelievable drive from both of them today. And the result is as follows. Lando Norris wins ahead of Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton recovers to P4 in the end. Great drive from him right from the back on the hard tyre. The alternative strategy went about in a very different way to Charles. Charles made up loads of positions at the start, was P8 by the end of lap 1. Insane. And Lewis just had the different tyre, just managed it, didn't gain tons of positions like Charles did, but Lewis is so good over a race distance. I do think he has lost that one lap spark, that one lap finesse. And I think Charles will really consistently out-qualifying. Not convincingly, consistently. Like, I don't think he'll be putting half a second on Lewis. I think he'll just be consistently putting, like, you know, a couple of tenths on Lewis, like, every time. So it won't be a massive gap, but I think Charles is going to have that advantage. But if Lewis can get on top of this Ferrari and the style that's needed to maximise its tyre life and caress it around the track, then I think Lewis is going to have a very good chance in the races next year against Charles. And it was a great job from him today to make the mediums last at the end and have enough tyre to get George at the end, which you can always debate, you know. Did George defend that position as hard as he would have defended against, say, Max Verstappen? Especially given the recent ding-dong between the two of them? No. But also, was George just going to let Lewis by? No. Like, no. That's not in George's nature. And they kept it clean, and Lewis got the move done. So very good. Max Verstappen P6 in a very forgettable race for Max. Season's done. He's a dad now. Going to be a dad soon. So, yeah, I mean, he's dad mode to the end of the year. He said, didn't he? There was a quote of him like, "Oh, if I can get 12 penalty points, then I can take some parental leave for when the little one comes around." So, good vibes there. Pierre Gasly P7, great drive from Pierre. Superb drive. Again, the people who laughed at me when I made my David Sanchez video, like, "Oh, they just got lucky. They only got lucky in Brazil. What are you talking about? Where? Bro, Alpine are better than Aston Martin. They are knocking on the door of the top 4. Absolutely. They definitely are. And David Sanchez is a huge reason for that. So go watch that video and apologise. Gasly, great job. Outscored Nico Hulkenberg. Another great job from him. Nico's been phenomenal this year. He's had dips, unfortunately, and that will reflect on my end of season ratings, which if you haven't seen the linked comment in the live chat or the link in the description down below, the poll's out for end of season driver ratings. So maybe while you listen to this, maybe open on another tab if you're listening on computer, whatever, and fill in your driver ratings, 1 trash to 10, great, for this year. And that video will be coming next week. But yeah, great job from Nico Hulkenberg. Fernando Alonso P9 as well. Fernando, I think, has the Aston Martin struggled, but he's continued to. That's a good, a few point scoring positions in a row, right? For Fernando. I feel like he's been doing decent as of late. He had a bit of a wobble at the start. Sorry, in the middle, not at the start. And then Oscar Piastri P10, final point on the board, just squeezed back into the points after a very, very messy race, which started with Max punting him into turn 1. Thank you, Karthik, by the way, for the super chat. Hamilton's racecraft still top 3 on the grid. Easy. Yeah, I mean, over a race, I think race management, like tyre management, I think Lewis is exceptional with. Racecraft, I consider racecraft to be like wheel to wheel, and for me, that's Charles. I think he's clear of the rest. But Lewis is, of course, definitely up there. But yeah, he proved it this year. You know, he's still over a race distance. Lewis still absolutely does have it. No question. And thank you, Road Rage, as well. Thank you, Tomo, for another incredible season of Chinwags, full of the good, bad, interesting, and infuriating takes. Oh, I love to hear that. Thank you, Road Rage. Happy holidays to you and Minton. I love to hear that, especially the infuriating ones. They're the ones I enjoy the most. I enjoy infuriating you all. Oscar's fantastic racecraft as well. But yeah, top 10, Albon. Alex, man, in a Williams that's been pretty rubbish as of late. Fair play to him. Finishing P11. Yuki Tsunoda P12. If he hadn't had such a terrible start, who knows what could have been for Yuki. Joe P13. Stroll 14. Doohan on debut P15. Not an amazing, but debut, kept it clean, got the full race distance in. That was the most important thing for Jack going into next season with his home Grand Prix as the first Grand Prix of the year next year, because we're back to Australia opening the season in 2025, which is pretty cool. K-Mag, very messy, mainly thanks to Valtteri Bottas, and fastest lap at the end, good vibes for K-Mag. I'm glad he got that in the end. Could have been maybe points for him, though. Could have maybe been points for him if it wasn't for the Bottas bowling ball throwback to 2021. Liam Lawson, P17, they didn't put his tyres on properly, which is a Herculean error. And then he had to do a 10-second stop go, which is like a 30-second penalty. Ouch. And then Bottas, Colapinto, Perez do not finish the race. Oh, yeah, and Liam broke down at the end, but he was still classified. So, literally, they pushed that RB right to the end, and it just almost managed it, but not quite. Not quite. Right, so there are your results for the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which means the driver standings, not much changes here. Couple of position moves, though. We've got Gasly jumping ahead of Hulkenberg, 42 points to 41. Carlos Sainz almost catches Oscar Piastri, only 2 points behind him, 292 to 290. That's it, actually. That's it. Russell finishes ahead of Hamilton this year, but in the total, because that's crazy. So going into this weekend, over 3 seasons as teammates, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell had the exact same number of points. Exact same, like 600 and something, I guess it would have been. But of course, Lewis finished ahead of George in the race, so Lewis wins that head-to-head over 3 seasons, which is kind of cool. But that's like ridiculous. But I think it speaks volumes for how good a job George has done jumping into that Mercedes a long time. That Mercedes-Lewis Hamilton relationship has been the most fruitful relationship in Formula One history. So for George to step into that and do what he's done, got to give him credit. You might not like him, Lord of Fleck, but you got to give him credit for that. Thank you, Fulcrum, for the super chat. Could we get a livery prediction as a Christmas gift? A livery prediction for what? Is for who? For me? I mean, they'll probably all look pretty much the same, just with slightly different sponsors. That's my prediction. Sorry, it's not more exciting, but that's my prediction in reality. And thank you, Tommy Senpai, as well, for the super chat. Thanks for all the content, Tom. Any early 25 storyline predictions? McLaren and or Ferrari Civil War, George v Max, Hope 25 slaps. Look, I said it, like I really hope whoever steps into that seat alongside Max can actually bring some performance, because like, I think Kimi Antonelli is going to take him some time, of course, inevitably. But look, 6 drivers, right? Both McLarens, both Ferraris, George Russell and Max Verstappen. That's 6 is a good number of drivers who can win a Grand Prix at any given weekend. And all the cars have converged, and they're all just going to get closer and closer. But if we can add a 7th in there with the other Red Bull, that would be stupendous. Do I think that's going to happen? I'd love to see it, but I'm not so sure Red Bull was set up that way, But I think, look, George v Max is obviously going to get tasty. I think Max has to go into 25 as favourite, surely. And then you're looking at, okay, who can actually, him and Charles can race each other, and Charles gives as good as he gets against Max. George and Max, we've not really seen them properly scrap on track, but in terms of the off-track stuff, okay, and all that, George and Max is like, it's primed and ready to be very explosive, and that's got the most explosive potential, I think. George and Max, definitely. Lando, unbelievably quick over a lap. Will he now have learnt from those instances? And, he did come out on top, ultimately, over Max in Mexico. And it's just a matter of him. He knows what he's up against now. So that is something to be said for Lando, for sure. Oscar has still got to work on his consistency. But I think he will be similar to Leclerc in terms of he will be able to race Max, I think. Look, who knows, right? Lewis may be in a Ferrari. That's all up in the air. I hope he'll have the race pace, I think, but over a lap it's going to be difficult for him. But yeah, 2025, all the ingredients are there, absolutely. And we will be there no matter what. Don't you worry. Tommo's Race Chinwag will not be stopping anytime soon. We're about to go into an absolutely god tier season. Okay, and it's been fantastic this year. This has been one of my favourite seasons of all time. No question. But next year is going to be unbelievable, Jeff. And yes, don't you worry, Coconut MGT helmet ranking video will be coming this year before the end of the year. Hopefully, if I've got time. I'm going to try and make it work. But yes, anyway. Oh my God, I almost fell over. The problem is where you segue to t-shirts. I've got loads of boxes like everywhere. There's literally there are a pile of boxes next to me that is 7.5 foot tall. Just out of shot over there. So yeah, and there's some behind me as well, which I almost tripped over. But there you go. Give us a free t-shirt. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. Team standings. McLaren with the devil's number, 666 points. They get it done ahead of Ferrari, 652, 14 points ahead. 63 points back from Ferrari. Red Bull on 589. Alpine get it done ahead of Haas, 7-point advantage by the end. Well done, Pierre Gasly. Well done, David Sanchez. Well done, Ollie Oakes. Well done, Flavio. Well done, Luca De Meo. Nah, I mean, Luca De Meo, come on, bro. Like, I can't really give him credit. But finally, it's about time. It's about time that Alpine, because, start of last year, Alpine and McLaren, if anything, Alpine were better than McLaren, that start of last year, start of 23. McLaren have shown what can be done, and maybe that does give hope. It should give hope to the other teams. I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's been a good battle, good scrap to the end. Again, shame Red Bull haven't been more part of it. Even if, the thing is, though, if Checo was just, occasionally getting in podiums and, regularly getting in points, Red Bull probably still win the constructors, because Checo's been so bad. The fact that they're, 77 points behind McLaren is barbaric. It's crazy. It is actually crazy. But yeah, Aston Martin just about held on as well. Fortunately for Aston Martin, Fernando found a bit of pace at the end. Because I'm sure it wasn't that many races ago, Aston Martin were on 70 points. And Alpine end with 65. Damn, that's crazy. If you remove Stroll's points from Aston, they still finish P5. Well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? You like Alpine because you drive a Renault. Do I? Do I drive a Renault? I'm pretty sure I don't. I'm not wrong with Renaults, right? I actually quite like Renaults nowadays. They look quite nice, but I do not own one, I'm afraid. But yeah, well done, McLaren. You got it done. Right, my predictions were not great this weekend. Charles Leclerc race winner, no. Although, fantastic recovery drive. Banger drive, Jack Doohan? No. I mean, he kept it clean. It wasn't an exception. I mean, points would have been a banger drive for sure. So, no. Clanger drive, Lance. It wasn't very good, but it wasn't the worst. So, no. Banger team Ferrari. I'm giving myself a point for that. And my Citroen, man. Look, I'll drive a McLaren if you will buy my T-shirts, right? A Clanger team Williams. No. Albon almost got points. Come on. And it wasn't Colapinto's fault that Piastri rear-ended him. So, come on. So, 1 out of 5 for me. For you, you've actually done quite well. Race winner, Charles Leclerc, no. Banger drive, Charles Leclerc, yes. Well done. Clanger drive, Checo. I'm giving you half a point for that because, yes, his qualifying wasn't great. And he got to Q3. And he got hit by Bottas, and it was unfortunate. But I think there are worse drives out there. So I'm giving you half a lap. Half a point for Checo. Banger team Ferrari, yes, well done. Clanger team McLaren, no. So 2.5 points. You lot always beat me in this. I've actually, I need to, like we said about Lando. Lando needs to go back to the drawing boards and work out how he's going to approach 2025. I need to do the same with the bangers and clangers predictions because you lot have been, it's been pretty one-sided, to be honest, your collective minds. So well done, all right? I'm really happy for you. I'm really happy for you. It's emotional. It's an emotional one, all right? Okay, well done. All right. Well, I hope you're happy. Anyway, bangers and clangers for this weekend's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Banger drive. Now, there's 5 names that come to mind. Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Gasly, Albon. Because that Williams is rubbish and he got 11th, right? And I'm biased. So deal with it. 5 names. But for me, it's Charles Leclerc. I mean, that lap 1. And look, he had nothing to lose, right? So he's going to go for it. But bro, the way the seas parted for Charles, and he just positioned his car perfectly. Charles Leclerc's racecraft is the best in Formula 1. And he's probably the quickest over a lap in Formula 1. Like, give him the car and he will win the title in 25. I feel like Max should be the favourite, but I'm almost inclined for my predictions for next year, when I get around to doing them in probably February, to put Charles Leclerc, because I just think he's so good. Like I think he's an unbelievable racing driver, and he deserves multiple world titles. Will he get one or not? I don't know, but bro, come on. I've got to give it Charles, man. The recovery. No, look. The one thing you say about Charles, well, he's the one who did track limits, and yes, he did. He did do track limits by like millimeters, and I don't know. If it was, if you stick it in the wall and then mess up your qualifying by like crashing or like being he track limited by like millimeters. So I can't sit here and be like, oh, like really get on him for that. It was his fault. He did do track limits, but yeah, I think the way he recovered, having that penalty as well, just the car positioning was unbelievable. So good. So yeah, Charles Leclerc for me. But it is great. I mean, Lewis, unbelievable drive from the back. Lando, what more could he have done? You can definitely make that argument. It was kind of a perfect drive from Lando. Pole, led from start to finish. But I think given the context of the situation, I think Charles had a lot more to do. A lot more could have gone wrong for Charles, and it didn't, because he's an unbelievable racing driver. Unbelievable, Jeff. Unbelievable, Jeff. So well done, Charles Leclerc. Well, thank you, Trip, for the super chat, by the way. Very kind. Thank you. Were you aware that the top livery, the Mr. V's Garage collab, wasn't even the highest rating livery in your 2021 reviews? Really? Well, to be fair, when I did that video with Mr. V, you should check it out on his channel, Mr. V's Garage. It was kind of like a head-to-head thing, right? So, obviously, if you're just picking your 10 best liveries of all time, like, there was a few where we had to knock them out early doors because Mr. V was being blind, and he was like, no, that other livery is better than this livery. That's just the way head-to-head goes sometimes. You don't always get... It's like in the World Cup, isn't it? You don't always get the 2 best teams at the end. You might get the 2 best teams in the quarterfinals facing each other, and then you get, some nation that's not known for their football prowess in the final. So that's why, Trip. That's the way it goes, But that 2021 Alpine is an absolutely phenomenally beautiful car, and it's got better with time as well. Google it if you want to see it. But yeah, banger drive, Charles Leclerc. Well done, Charles. But what about you lot? 1,183 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting, if you did. Make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel if you want to see the polls on my community tab, or follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey, where I post them on there as well. But thank you for voting, if you did. Your banger drive for the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is Charles Leclerc. 56% of the votes, 24% to Lewis Hamilton, 15% for Lando Norris, 3% to Pierre Gasly. Where's Albon? Sort it out, you lot. Come on. Where is Albon? Well done, Charles. Thoroughly deserved, but unbelievable from Lewis as well. Very, very good. Good to see him end his Mercedes career with a nice little uptick in form just at the end for his final race. My clanger drive for me, and there's quite a number of suggestions here, but the most egregious mistake with a big outcome, unfortunately, in his final race in F1, maybe ever, was Valtteri Bottas. I mean, that lock-up to hit K-Mag was a very uncharacteristic, like, complete lock-up where you're like, he's desperately trying to turn in. And that's obviously why, right? Because he's trying to turn in to avoid the accident, that just makes the wheels lock even more. And he can't, he carried too much speed, so he can't release the brake pedal to try and undo the lock-in. And it's just messy. It's very messy. And he took out K-Mag on his last race as well. And the problem for Valtteri is that if he does find his way back into Formula 1, be that in 2026 with Cadillac, he will have to serve a 5-place grid penalty. I believe that's the penalty that he got. Because he did get penalised for that, but he won't be able to serve it. He couldn't serve it in the race because he had to retire the car. And so he will serve it if/when he returns, which I believe Jenson Button is also carrying a grid penalty, right, from his last race. So if Jenson ever returns to F1, it's a stretch, I know, he will have to serve that as well. But yeah, Valtteri, that is actually confirmed as well. He would actually have to serve that, which is pretty funny. Penalties disappear after season ends. No, they don't, Anthony. That is not true. They do not. He will carry that over. So, yeah, that's something to consider. If Cadillac want him for 26, well, you're just going to have to serve a grid penalty straight out the doors. Thank you, Sidamp, by the way, for the super chat. Thoughts on Hadjar? Oh, we'll get onto the F2. Don't you worry, Sidamp, but thank you very much for your super chat. I do appreciate that. We'll talk about Hadjar when we get into the F2 chat towards the end. Don't you worry. Jake, why is your Albon your favourite driver? The question, Jake, really, is why is Albon not your favourite driver? I mean, isn't he everyone's favourite driver? Isn't he the default favourite driver for everyone? And then you get some people, I'm going to be a Lewis fan or a Max fan, or I'm going to be Lando fan, whatever. Like, I know that most of you are Albon fans, like, obviously. That goes without saying. So the onus is on you to justify why you're not Jake. That's the way I see it, anyway. Lucas, you effing love Albon. See, look, Lucas absolutely loves Albon. See, look, Hilmaz, yes, loves Bottas. Chat. Look, you don't have to. It's nice when you agree with me. All right, I appreciate you're all Albon fans. Okay, it's good to hear. Your clanger driver from the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is Valtteri Bottas as well. 24% of the vote. Just actually, hang on, let me actually look at how many votes different, because Max Verstappen is second with also 24% of the vote, but I need to check exactly how many votes there were. So Bottas got 282 votes, Max got 281 votes. So literally by one vote, Valtteri got it over Max for clanger drive, which, I mean, he did take out Piastri turn 1 lap 1, which was penalised, which is that a bit of a breaker precedent? I mean, look, it's never been the case that you can just take people out on lap 1 and because it's lap 1 it's fine, but they have always been more reserved with their penalties because of lap 1. But yeah, I mean, it was clear and obvious. Like, he definitely, he went for a lunge, nothing to lose, and it didn't work out, did it? And then the 10-second penalty and not really a huge amount of pace in that Red Bull. But I mean, he's won the title, so, you can't ask him to be like, oh, Max, you got to be 100%. Like, bro, no, I'm a dad and I've won the title. Like, chill out. There's more important things going on right now. And then Perez, 23% of the vote. Again, I think that's harsh because, it wasn't really much his fault, but I get it as well. Like, it's final Grand Prix and ends almost immediately. And then Oscar Piastri, 15% of the vote. Not his fault that Max took him out. Was his fault he punted Colapinto and ended Colapinto's race, so that's fair. And another scrappy race for Oscar, actually. I've said that a few times, haven't I? Like, he seems to... I'm sure that was the case in Qatar. Like, he did well in Qatar, but, like, he always seemed to be on the edge. And, like, there were so many times he almost lost it. And obviously he had that big moment behind one of the racing balls, didn't he? Where he got so close that the aero just went crazy and he just almost spun off. So another messy race from Oscar, but he got it over the line in the end. So well done, Oscar. Banger team for me, Ferrari. I think pretty clear and obvious given the recovery. Ferrari hoped that they could get the battery through. They couldn't, but they gave their drivers a car that could perform well. You'd think, McLaren 1-2, sure, and obviously it's not Oscar's fault he got taken out, but I'm going to say Ferrari, just to, Ferrari lost out on the constructors, but I'm sure Fred Vasseur, I'm sure he's watching. I'm sure seeing this on his screen will fill him with a little bit of joy. And you know, you don't get P1, and you might miss out on $10-15 million, but you know, Tommo approves. So swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Bit more ATR for next year, so it's not all bad, Ferrari. My banger team was Ferrari. Your banger team was also for. I've messed up the graphic, haven't I? So who actually was it? Oh, okay. Cool. So if you're watching, you can see I've maybe slightly messed up the graphic, which means you're in suspense, right? Because you don't know. You don't actually know who you've put as banger team. So it wouldn't be a Chinwag without me having a bit of a pavlova. Because one team scored 46% in the vote, another team scored 42% in the vote. But which was which? Well, I can reveal. I think it's already revealed it on screen, actually, that it was a Ferrari who got 46% of the vote. So well done, Ferrari. Grazie ragazzi. Vamos. Molto bene. I've run out of phrases. I'm sorry, everyone. I do apologise. Well done, Ferrari. 46% of the vote for you as well. So you agree with me. 42% for McLaren, 6% for Alpine, 5% for Mercedes. Now, Vamos is not Italian, but Carlos is Spanish, and he got P2. So have some of that, Prix. All right, have some of that. Finally, clanger team. For me, Racing Bulls. It kind of all fell away, didn't it, towards the end of the year? Obviously, Haas and Alpine found performance. Tsunoda had a bad start. Both cars running behind Albon. And didn't put Liam's wheels on correctly, which is a pretty Herculean error. And that completely destroyed his race, which was a shame because he was running ahead of Tsunoda, obviously, at that point. Again, mainly because of Yuki's bad start. Yuki seemed to, at the time, think it wasn't something he'd done wrong, and it was a car issue as well. So, yeah, I think Racing Bulls, pretty clear and obvious for me as clanger team, and for you as well. 38% of the vote. 28% of you went for Red Bull as clanger team. And yes, it wasn't great, but, I mean, Perez gets hit. Not really his fault. Max hits Piastri, which was his fault, and the pace wasn't great. But yeah, I get it. I understand. And obviously, you know, nowhere in the constructors' fight in the end relative to McLaren and Ferrari, which is kind of crazy, really, kind of crazy. 14% Sauber, 13% of you went Williams. I'm not Williams, really. Albon almost got a point. Very harsh, but there you go. So those are your bangers and clangers, and those are mine. And as you can see, they are absolutely identical, which doesn't often happen. But we are aligned for once. For once, everyone. We are finally aligned. Now, before, we've got to go team by team, and we've got to talk about F2. But before we do that, I have got my T-shirts. They are on sale. And as you can see on screen, unfortunately, because of an annoying bit of EU regulation, if you are based in the EU, in the European Union, or Northern Ireland, you have basically 24 hours to order from TOMMO'SRacingGoods.com. You can order a T-shirt like this lovely T-shirt I'm wearing now with the pink arms that look a bit orange on screen, but they are pink. These images are correct to the actual colour. And also I made a cap as well, which is kind of cool, which has Minton in the Red Bull logo and Tommo's Racing Goods in the AMG logo. Yeah, I know Northern Ireland as well, apparently Halita. Yeah, I don't get it, but it is a thing. But yeah, if you want to order from the European Union, you have 24 hours. You have till the end of Monday to order. Otherwise, I can't send to you because of this stupid new rule. So that's the thing. So if you're thinking about it and you want one before Christmas, and it's now or never, basically. So yeah, get your orders in. Appreciate everyone who's ordered already, by the way. I'm going to start dispatching tomorrow and start getting rid of all of these boxes that are probably going to make the floor cave in at some point because there's quite a lot of them. It's something called what's this? GSPR? No, GPSR. GSPR? GPSR. There you go. Thank you, Hannah, in the background. GPSR. That's the stupid rule. So look it up if you want. It's very boring. But, yeah. Thank you for everyone who's ordered already. Anyway, back to F1 stuff. Gabriel Bortoleto wins Formula 2. Well done, Gabby. Well deserved. Very well deserved. Had a really strong sprint race, did Gabby, which helped, grew the advantage to Isaac Hadjar. And then Isaac had the worst possible feature race you could possibly have. Because he stalled off the start, which is crazy. And yes, Rami, I do ship internationally. As long as you're not in the EU, anywhere else in the world, just not in the EU, basically, you can order. So, lots of orders from the States, for example. Thank you to all my Americans. Appreciate you all. But yeah, Gabby won it. And if you're in Brazil, home of Gabriel Bortoleto, you can also get a Thomas Racing Good t-shirt. Yeah, he won F2. The feature race was good. Dirksen was going up the clappers at the end, very quick. Won the race in the end. But yeah, Hadjar stalled off the line, which is just such a shame because it could have well been a really good scrap in the feature race for it. And bless him, old Alex Jakes was... And I firmly thought, Hadjar's going to go for it. Like, he's wheel to wheel with Kushmani. He's going to have a go at Bortoleto, maybe. And I was like, it's Pepe Marti. Whoops, it's the other Red Bull guy. So, yes, that was it was pretty crazy first lap. But yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto, I think no one can say he didn't deserve it. He's a back-to-back F3 and F2 champion, which again, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Oscar Piastri, the only 3 drivers prior to Gabriel to achieve that in their rookie seasons, which is very impressive. Going into a Sauber next year alongside Nico Hülkenberg, I think they've got a hell of a young driver on their hands. And fair play to McLaren for not making it difficult, because of course he does represent McLaren right now. He's part of their junior academy, but obviously there's no clear and obvious route to McLaren anytime soon with Lando and Oscar, right? And they're so young as well. McLaren have kind of, you get to a position, right, where the whole point of a driver academy is to set up the next generation. But then what if your current generation is also the next generation? Because Lando and Oscar have still got plenty of years ahead of them. You've got to let drivers go. And I think Gabriel Bortoleto is one of those examples. I think if there wasn't such a clear and obvious talent in Oscar Piastri alongside Lando, then Gabby probably would have had a shot at that McLaren seat. But that was not the case. And so fair play, Gabby. Well done. Well done to him. Did you hear Jake say his mistake on Pepe Isaac was a clanger? Did he? I mean, I don't own that term, so. But I'd love to know it, so shout out Alex. He's a good guy, Alex Jakes. Met him a couple of times, did a couple of podcasts with him. Good man. Like Alex Jakes. He'll be... he's not doing F2 next year, is he? So I wonder if he's... What he's doing instead. If he's got a promotion or doing something. It'd be interesting to see. But yeah, well done, Gabby. Great season F2 this year. Got to say, I made a video, when was it? Start of this year, saying I thought F2 this year was going to be the best season ever, and it's been up there. It's been very up there. I think there's been so many different race winners. I think we finally got Paul Aaron winning a race in Qatar last time out, which was well deserved. And yeah, I think Paul Aaron, Gabriel Bortoleto, Isaac Hadjar. Look, Hadjar has high highs, and it does seem like he's in line for that V-carb seat alongside Yuki with Liam in the Red Bull. That's what's being reported as the most likely outcome. I think Paul Aaron as well, they've got a hell of a driver on their hands at Alpine now. They brought him in, which obviously has kind of put Victor Martin's nose out of place a bit. Which, I mean, fair play to him. Victor obviously put it on pole for the feature race, but then had a terrible start himself. At least he got off the line, but it wasn't a good start for Victor. So I think, obviously Ollie Oakes, ex-High-Tech, knows Paul Aaron really well and brought him over for a reason. They must see the pace and the potential there. I think Paul Aaron could be one of those, if one of the rookies, if Doohan doesn't do well, I think if Doohan struggles, I hope he doesn't, and I don't think he will. I think Doohan's a very, very capable driver. I think looking at how he performed relative to Pourchaire, to Frederic Vesti in Formula 2 last year, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be very good. But if he isn't, I think Paul Aaron is going to be there. He's going to be there. He's going to be primed and ready to pick up the pieces. So that just puts a bit more pressure on Jack, but I think pressure's a good thing for these young drivers. And I think Gabriel going into Sauber, flying the Brazilian flag for the first time since Felipe Massa in 17, wasn't it? Is going to be good to see. So I'm looking forward to that. Well done, Gabby. Got it done. Got the job done in the end. That's the wrong screen. You're just seeing a big bright white screen with my small face in the corner. Team by team, let's start with Williams. You know what? To end the season with a P11 finish, almost a point for Alex. Look, it was never going to mean anything in the constructors, but look, they've had a lot of shunts as of late, and good to get the year over the line. Franco, man, like his little message beforehand was like getting me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, right? He was like, "Oh, you've made my dreams come true." I was like, "Oh, Franco, bless him." Yeah, like, it does feel like the interest in Franco and the potential for a seat next year has definitely cooled down. Alex has beat him, 7-2 head to head in qualifying. He's definitely, Franco had that immediate burst onto the scene, excitement, and did a fantastic job in those early races. Singapore in particular comes to mind. But yeah, I think he's in a really good position at Williams. He knows that Sainz, he knows that potentially Albon as well could be looking on for bigger and better things after 2025, and I think Franco's got a good position there at Williams. He's made a good impression. He brings good financial backing as well. Consolidate your position, get your FP1s, old drive machinery, blah blah blah. He'll have had this experience, done 9 Formula 1 Grand Prix. I think he's well placed for a career down the line. Just depends on whether Williams can really impress Albon and Sainz going into 26, right? I think he's put himself in a good place, but I don't think he's going to go to Red Bull. I don't think he's going to be on the grid next year. And yeah, I think Alex. There was a lot of pressure on him when Colapinto came in. A lot of noise. Franco deserves your seat. Blah blah blah. But I think Alex has kind of settled in and is convincingly outpaced Franco for most of the time as teammates, for sure. But yeah, we'll see. The thing for Alex, it's not going to be so much a problem for Carlos, but like either of them, right? Williams have got a very capable driver as their reserve for next season in Franco Colapinto, that if they start to wane and if they start to struggle and if they start to not perform, then Franco's going to be there and waiting, Absolutely. Do Williams have a seat in Super Formula? No. Colapinto Super Formula, that could be cool. That could definitely be cool, Frank. But yeah, I do wonder, obviously, reserve driver duties, test driver. It's work for doing, isn't it? And it worked for Oscar. It worked for Oscar at Alpine. Obviously with McLaren in the end, but kind of sticking with Alpine, being their all-in reserve driver, being at every Grand Prix. It's worked for Jack Doohan as well, being there, being present every weekend, because then you're more front of mind rather than Franco missing races and like Luke Browning being the reserve. And Franco missing races and going off and being, I don't know, like doing Super Formula or IndyCar or whatever. So, yeah, I think that plays a part. And yeah, Nuno, that's a good point. All those crashes as well at the end of the season for Williams certainly wouldn't have helped, and they'd have been running old spec various components throughout these cars, which won't have helped performance. But I think, in Sainz, and particularly in Sainz, and Alex is a bit crashy. He does have a crashy moment in him, but I think, does that also reflect the trickiness of the car, perhaps? But I think Sainz is a very reliable driver. Williams shouldn't have to worry about that too much next year and should hopefully make some good progress going into 25. I hope so. But yeah, Frankenstein cars, exactly, Christopher. Exactly. Sainz will take Williams to another level, hopefully. I'd love to see that. Sauber, I'll tell you what, like, it's been a pretty decent renaissance. It's just been too little too late. Because, Joe was looking good at one point in this race, kind of fell away then. Bottas, who knows, obviously he takes out Magnussen, right? But they've been considerably more, they've been considerably more competitive in that midfield since the Vegas upgrade. And for most of this season, Sauber have been on their own at the back in a way that we haven't really seen since like Haas, when we had Schumacher and Mazepin. It's a shame it's come so late for Joe and Valtteri, because I do think they are better drivers than that car has made them look. And I think, in my opinion, that's particularly on Joe's side, because Joe has been the one who's been running the more Frankenstein for Williams. I think, he's been the one running the Frankenstein cars over a lot of the course of this season. And when he does finally get a car underneath him that's, got the upgrades and is there, he's pretty close to Valtteri. But also, the reason they're giving Joe the Frankenstein cars is because he may be pretty close to Valtteri, but Valtteri's still better. So you give the better car to the better driver. And Bottas has undoubtedly been the better driver. So, yeah, look, I think Nico deserves a car that isn't off the back on its own. And I'm glad that this little uptick in performance at the end has come, because seeing Nico Hülkenberg do so well at the end of this year, for him to then go into an absolutely asinine Sauber that's like just hanging at the back of the grid, that would have been such a shame. But now they seem to have turned a bit of a corner. Hopefully they can carry that one into 2025 and give Nico something to fight with. Please, I beg. Because he didn't get the podium this weekend, which is sad. And nil point for Valtteri, indeed. Nil point, indeed. Red Bull, look, season over. I guess we got to come back to the whole Checo talking point. I mean, there's been some quotes knocking about from Checo post-race. Where he's been speaking to media about his contract situation, and it does feel like he's kind of now at the stage where he's just going to kind of dig his heels in and be like, I have a contract. So what? There's some quotes here. So when he's speaking to media afterwards, Perez acknowledged the talks are underway for the first time since the speculation begun. Well, at the moment, I don't know, he said when asked about his emotions heading into an uncertain winter. I just know that I've got a contract to race next year, and unless something changes in the coming days, that's going to be the situation for next year. Yeah, so we'll see what happens and how the conversation goes in the coming days. So they're very much kind of kicking the can down the road. The situation appears to be that Red Bull, Christian Horner, the board at Red Bull, Helmut Marko probably as well, would like Checo to take like an ambassadorial style role, like what Daniel Ricciardo had when he was with that team, but not with that team. Before they put Daniel in the Racing Bulls, where he was doing media, still part of the Red Bull family. Whenever you... here's a little something to bear in mind for life, right? Whenever your workplace is trying to talk up the environment as a family, red flag, okay? You're replaceable. It's your job, and it's in your employer's best interest to make you feel that way so that they can take advantage of you. I'm not saying that's always the case, but I'm saying that often can be the case. So, yeah, that's something to bear in mind for everyone watching, okay? Because they're not your family. If you drop dead tomorrow, they'll be on Indeed straight away, getting the next person through the door, right? They're not your family. I almost tripped over the box again. But yeah, it feels like he's digging his heels in. He's got a contract. We don't know what the permutations of that contract are. Of course, it was extended, wasn't it, mid-season, because they hoped that it would perform, but you would improve his performances. But you would think, surely, if they're going to extend Checo's contract at a time when he was really struggling, they must have had some kind of... Surely, Red Bull aren't that naive to throw the kitchen sink at Checo and give him everything he wants in that contract when he's already not performing when they gave it to him, the extension. So who knows, right? That's Red Bull's ideal. Of course, Checo is an ambassador. They sell so many Red Bull cans, they can wheel him out for all these events and get all of the commercial benefit of Checo, which is the sole reason he's still in the car, by the way. So of course Red Bull want that side of him still, but then they just don't have to put him in the car. That's like a dream situation for Red Bull. For Checo, and look, that's the thing, right? Checo digging his heels in, I don't blame him. Right? Red Bull GmbH is this huge organisation. He's tried his best. Red Bull are still... Checo's not been good enough, no doubt. But Red Bull have a role to play in not being able to give a car that another driver can be competitive in. And again, this is not just about, Max is amazing, right? And Max beat Albon, he beat Gasly, he beat Perez. Week in, week out, every time, right? But it's not like Albon, Gasly and Perez were only getting beaten by Max. They're getting beaten by everyone else. And it's Red Bull's responsibility to at least be able to give them a car that can finish on the podium where Max is winning all the time. No, not so much now where Max isn't winning all the time, but when Max was winning all the time and when he was super competitive. It's Red Bull's responsibility to try and give them a car that they can at least perform to a satisfactory level in. But they've not been able to. And I think, Red Bull want a relationship that works for them, and that would be an ambassadorial role for Checo. And Checo needs to, and that's business, and that's Red Bull prioritising the business. And if Checo wasn't Mexican and didn't bring all of the Mexican support and Latin American support that comes with him, they wouldn't be interested in keeping him on as an ambassador, would they? It's business. The reason they were interested in Daniel as an ambassador is because it was Daniel Ricciardo. So he needs to think about it in the same way. And if he's got a contract and he can dig his heels in and get a 20 mil payout, which has been talked about as a figure, good for him. Good for him. So yeah, I don't know what the answer. I don't know what the answer is to that second seat. I don't have a strong belief in Lawson or Tsunoda. I don't have a strong belief in Ricciardo or Bottas or anyone else to be able to jump into that. I just don't know. I don't know. It's almost the double-sided sword. And Red Bull have gone down this route where, they've built a car philosophy that Max can extract the maximum out of. And Max is a freak of nature in the best possible way. He's an incredible, incredible racing driver and could well go down as the greatest to ever do it. I think he has the ability, and if he carries on and he goes into his 30s, I don't know if he will. But the heights of his career are undoubtable, right? You can't doubt Max's talent. Nobody can. But, it feels like they've got to this place where they can't seem to build out an environment. It's not just the car itself, and it's an environment that another driver can thrive in. How much of that is on the team? How much of that is on the individual? It's always a combination. So, yeah, look, I think difficult decision for Red Bull going into next year. We'll do a little poll, actually. Let's do a little poll. Who would you put in the Red Bull alongside Max? So if it was up to you, would you put Checo? Would you put Yuki? Would you put Liam? Or would you put other? So that could be Bottas. That could be... Science isn't an option. So don't say science. Of the options available, a Colapinto, a Bottas, Ayumu Iwasa. I mean, I'd love it. That'd be great. Who would you put in, And most of you are saying Yuki. 61% of you are saying Yuki. And the thing is that the reason that Red Bull and Christian have said that they're not putting Yuki in is because they don't believe he has the... It's a mentality question around Yuki. And I think it's a engineering feedback kind of question around Yuki. Now, I question the engineering feedback thing just because I know that was never Daniel Ricciardo's thing. Like, he said it himself. He's not into the data, into the weeds. He's an instinct driver. And it worked for him for years at Red Bull. And if you've got Max giving the feedback and you follow Max, of course, whoever they're bringing in, they're going to follow Max. It doesn't matter who you bring in alongside Max. It doesn't matter what feedback they give. Like, if Carlos Sainz came into Red Bull and started giving engineering feedback, sure, for setup, yes, but in terms of fundamental car development, they're listening to Max, not Carlos. Of course they are. They'd be naive not to. So, I do think the Honda thing plays a part, to be honest. I do think that plays a part more than their... what are the things that Christian is not willing to say openly, right? He can talk about engineering feedback. He can talk about, mentality and times where Yuki's kind of lost his head a bit. But then Liam's not exactly the calmest bloke, is he, behind the wheel? So I think maybe the Honda thing is more of a reason than they're letting on. Just because, of course, Honda moving to Aston Martin. You know, why promote Yuki if they're just probably going to lose him in 26? Like, I don't know. Maybe that is, maybe that isn't. But only one answer. Jos Verstappen. Well, look, 60% of you think Yuki Tsunoda should be in that Red Bull next season. 3% of you think Checo. Do the 3% of you who think Checo, do you work for Kit Kat? That's what I thought. 17% Liam, 20% if you think other. Liam Lawson would be consistent, unlike Checo and crash-happy Yuki. The thing is, like, the thing for Yuki that is against him versus Liam is that, yes, Yuki has looked quicker in qualifying slightly. I know it's been 6-0. I'm very sure, I don't know what the gap is on average, but I'm very sure it's small. Liam's had 10 Grand Prix. Yuki's had like 80. So I do think that also Liam has shown incredible adaptability in like DTM, in Super Formula. You know, did well in F2. Didn't do a bad job at all. I think adaptability, and I think this, you know, early doors nature to Liam Lawson's career, I think, and the lack of a connection to, you know, a Honda who are departing. I think those things certainly go in Liam's favour. Yuki deserves it. Like I've said it before, I said it a million times, but it's not about who deserves it. That's not the right decision. Is the person who can drive that car the quickest. And if that driver is, you know, Antonio Giovinazzi, then they should put Antonio Giovinazzi in that car. And that's why they need to do this like head-to-head shakedown, really, don't they? They need to get Liam in the car, the RB20, and they need to get Yuki in the RB20 to actually have the data. Because they had a bit of data on Daniel, and obviously that wasn't enough to showcase that this is the right move. But that's what they need to do, because there's so many unknowns. And if it was an easy decision, then they wouldn't have had, because Checo's not been good enough for his entire Red Bull career relative to Max. It's true. And Albon was never good enough relative to Max, and Gasly was never good enough. They've not had a driver who's actually been a good second driver in that team, not even a number 2 driver, just a good other driver in that car, since Daniel Ricciardo in 2018. I hadn't even started doing F1 YouTube. That's more than my entire career doing this. Bro, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. No, Perez in 21. Sorry, Matthew, no. Perez in 21 finished behind Bottas. And Bottas had a terrible year in 21. Perez helped out Max in Turkey, helped out Max in Abu Dhabi. But other than that, he did sod all. Like, he did. I'm sorry, he did. Go look at the points gap. Go back and look at that season. He's not been good enough from Perez at any point during his Red Bull career, apart from very odd occasions around Saudi or Baku. That's it. Albon was never good enough over a year and a half. Actually, yeah, in 2019, Albon was actually all right. Like, he actually did quite well in 2019. If he didn't get punted off by Lewis them 2 times, who knows? But regardless, he wasn't good enough. And Perez was never good enough. It's just... Yeah, who knows? Who knows what they'll do, right? I don't even think Red Bull know. And that's the problem, right? You've got all these different... You know, you've got Jos, you've got Christian, you've got Helmut, you've got Mintzlaff, you've got all these different parties. I was just bored in it, to be honest. And yeah, Perez was sick in 2020. Yeah, exactly. He was. In a racing point. That's the difference. Anyway, racing balls. I mean, I've got nothing more to say. I've already said everything I need to say about Liam and Yuki. We'll see. Yuki deserves it more, but I think Liam will get it. Mercedes... Bro, Lewis has been... It's not been good this year, of course, right? Obviously, he's had his amazing moments at Silverstone and that, but he's been off his game this year, for sure, no question. But, bro, so unlucky. Like, what are the chart? Magnussen hits this pointless bollard, and it just digs into his floor and just ruins the end of his lap. Like, that's so peak. Like, as if on his final weekend that happens. But you know what? Very, very good race from Lewis. The only thing it was missing was a podium. That would have been cool. But for him to catch and pass George right at the end as well. Like, unbelievable drive from Lewis. Like you don't need to, come on. You've only got to be human to like watch all of the post race radio. Like it gets you, man. It gets you. Can't you? If you don't get in there a little bit, by Lewis, you don't even need to like Lewis a little bit. Come on. Have a heart, have a soul. And that video Mercedes put out with "Blinded by Your Grace" in the background. Whew, Jesus, unbelievable. Bit of emotion hunting from Mercedes there. Very good job on that. But yeah, at least it's ended with a little uptick in form, which is nice to see. Look, I hope Mercedes can give George the car, because George is a very good driver. I think Lewis is still better than George over a race distance. But I think the problem is this year is that qualifying has been such a difficulty for Lewis that, you know, he's not been able to really showcase that, you know, better race management that he has often enough. But yeah, I think if Mercedes give George the car, you know, he can fight up there with the best. I do believe that. Is he the finished article? Absolutely not. I think Max, I think Lando and Charles have better race management than George, but I think best qualifiers, George is right up there. And he's prepared to make an enemy of himself if it means getting to the top. So, yeah, I think good hands. I think they're in good hands, Mercedes, with George. Kimi Antonelli, obviously, massive unknown, but I'm excited to see how he does. And they're going to be giving him a championship competitive car. So, you know, Kimi's raw ability through the junior formulas is just, there's a reason he's getting this shot as early as he is, because it's just been incredible. And even in F2 this year, considering how young he is, and he didn't even do F3, for him to be, where did he finish it? He finished sixth? Was it sixth? He finished in Formula 2. Where did he finish in the end? Oh, Kimi Antonelli. Sixth. So sixth in F2, like head of Victor Martin, head of Vachur, Colapinto. Dirksen actually got loads of points, didn't he, in the end? Blimey. Obviously ahead of Ollie as well. I think, you know, who knows with Kimi Antonelli, but yeah, George Russell, good hands to take that team forward. Oh yeah, of course, Kimi didn't even race, did he? So he finished sixth while he was sick. Yeah, Christopher, that's a good point. He didn't even race this weekend, did he? Yeah, look, I think I'm interested to see how many Mercedes sponsors leave, because Lewis is leaving, and they've had a whole year of knowing as well. Because obviously Lewis commands a massive fan base who will move to Ferrari with him, whereas Kimi's new and fresh, and you have a good contingent of Italian fans, no doubt, at the start, right? And George is not the most, he's probably the least popular of all the British drivers on the grid. So it'll be interesting to see, how that affects Mercedes commercially. Time will tell. But yeah, good end of the year, Mercedes. Give George the car, please. Please give George the car next year. I beg. McLaren, not much more to say. Already talked about McLaren. Well done them. Deserved over the course of the year, I would say. Haas, they've definitely, their pace in practice was unbelievable, wasn't it? And in qualifying, they were looking onto a really good thing. And then Magnussen messed up. And then Hulkenberg put it third. And then got his good drop, which was stinky. But, come on, Nico. You've been around long enough. You can't be making... That's not even a mistake. That's just... same with K-Mag, doing that, false... that practice start in the pit lane. Why are two of the most experienced drivers in F1 making these procedural errors that you would expect rookies to make? Seems a bit weird to me. But yeah, 7th in the end for Haas. Big improvement from last year. Thank you, Sharifson. Tommy Hilfiger already indicated they're leaving. There you go. I'm sure they won't be the only one. But yeah, look, I think Haas are in a good place. Obviously, Ocon, Behrman next year. Ollie's already shown his pace. Ocon is a very, very talented racing driver. You might not like him, but he's very, very good. And yeah, I think they're in a good place to move forward. And good bit of prize money as well. P7. Certainly better than last couple of years. So yeah, I think Haas are in a good place to progress. And if they can invest some of that money into their facilities and building out that team and making it more of a, operationally, they are a big deficit to your McLarens, your Red Bulls, your Mercedes. But maybe they can catch that up. Maybe Toyota will get a bit more interested and a bit more engaged. Obviously, Toyota Gazoo Racing is on that car at the moment. Maybe in time, they put more into that, and who knows what that team could morph into come 2026. Don't be surprised if that team has a Toyota, what's it, naming rights? Like Sauber with Alfa Romeo. Toyota Haas Formula 1 team for 26, 25 even, 25. I reckon there's a good chance of that. Ferrari just came up short, sadly. But I'm chuffed for Carlos that he got on the podium at the end. Look, he never deserved to lose that seat, of course. I completely understand why. He understands why. But deserved? No, of course not. Williams are getting a hell of a driver. Shame again. If Carlos had found a way past Lando in that race, that constructors would have literally gone down to the absolute wire, which would have been unbelievable. But yeah, I'm very glad Carlos. Look, this team's given him his wins. It's given him his podiums. Obviously, he had podium at McLaren before as well. But yeah, I think it's funny, isn't it, with Carlos? He left McLaren for Ferrari, which was objectively the right choice. Obviously, now McLaren have finally caught up, and he had such a good thing with Lando as well. The thing is, you can't really look at it and be like, oh, does he regret? Because no, there's no way he regrets leaving McLaren for Ferrari, because they gave him his wins. And yes, it's not worked out at this stage, but, is it Williams in 25? Maybe in 26 as well, but he's still young. He's still got years ahead of him. So, yeah, I think Carlos, it is what it is. You have to accept sometimes in life things don't go your way. And it's just unfortunate for him that Lewis decided to take this Ferrari opportunity at the end of his career, right? Because no one else is replacing Carlos Sainz at Ferrari. But yeah, I think it's so funny because even Andrea and Zach are saying they would just love to have a third car for Carlos, which shows just how much Carlos is still loved in McLaren. Yeah, I mean McLaren was straight up there to congratulate him when Carlos won in Silverstone. In 22 there. There's obviously a great relationship there, and I don't think there's any bad blood at all. And I wouldn't be surprised, if Carlos finds his way back to McLaren at some point in his career. You got to think, Lando and Oscar, maybe Max retiring in 28. How long can McLaren hold on to them two if them two are going to become as competitive as I believe they can be? Because Oscar's so good, Lando's so good. Can they facilitate that in the same team? Will one of them leave? And if one of them does leave, I think Carlos could be an incredible... Like, if Oscar was to leave, or if Lando was to leave, I think Carlos would be a top-tier driver to jump in, and he knows that team well. They know him well. They know what he needs from a car. He knows what they need from a driver. So, yeah, who knows, right? Future-wise, it's not... Going to Williams is a big downgrade, no doubt, but the writing was on the wall straight away when Lewis was announced as his replacement, but... Never say never. Never say never. Aston Martin. Look, it's been a slight uptick, hasn't it? I mean, it's more Fernando seems to be dragging results out of the car at the end of the season, but he's not happy, and understandably, and rightfully so. I think, given all of the investment, hopefully Andy Cowell can do a good job and help redirect this ship, because they've got all the resource in the world. Yet they're slower than Haas. Just say it's just human beings at the end of the day. You can have all the money you like, you can put all the, chuck around all the big salaries, get all the big names you want, but it's just human beings making decisions. And the human beings at Haas are working in a way more efficient way than the human beings at Aston Martin. I mean, of course, Cardile's coming in as well. Yes, indeed. Enrico Cardile. It feels so wrong that they're P5. Yeah, Kira, they banked their early season form, or lack of, not even their early season form. It's more the lack of performance from your Alpines, from your Williamses, from your Racing Bulls and your Haas, and they've played the long game, P5 in the end. But you could argue it'd have been better for them to finish lower down because they don't need the money. They've got the money. They need the wind tunnel time because it's not good. It's not good at all. But then finally we finish on a more happy story. Alpine, well done, Alpine. I'm happy to see that they've turned this ship around somewhat, and I think they've got David Sanchez, Ollie Oaks seems to be really level-headed and a good person, very not combative, and they just need some consistency in this team. Will it be Alpine next year? It feels like the Renault connection to this team is just waning and waning and waning as time goes on. I wouldn't be surprised if this is some kind of, they just sell the naming rights. They still reserve ownership of that team in the background. But look, I mean, maybe they won't because the performance has got better. That's what I would say. If Alpine are in a position where they're consistently getting top 10s, then Renault might think, oh, actually, there is value to putting our Alpine brand on this car. Perhaps. It depends on, the kind of money that they're being offered, because there's obviously a big ownership group now, a lot of celebrities on board, a lot of big high-profile names that should help attract other investors into this team, and, the writing's on the wall for selling this operation. You could say it's a shame. Is it a shame, really? I mean, Renault have been disappointed for so long now, so maybe you need new owners, new majority owners to take this team forward. But well done, Pierre. Well done, Jack, for keeping it clean. I think it was a good move in the end. I know he didn't score points, but you just kind of get that first race, full weekend, out your system. Come Australia next year, I think Jack will be a lot better prepared than he would have been without this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So, yeah. And then we've got the end of season test. That's what we're kind of, we're left with now. The end of season test, which will be starting. I don't even know actually when that starts. It's fairly soon. But yeah, I think the sport's in a good place. The sport's in a very good place going into next year. Now we get a long deserved break of the rest of this month. Not, now it's like, right, this week's video, again, link in the description to this video and in the pinned comment at the top of the live chat, is the end of season driver rating. So make sure you go over and fill out that Google form. Give all of the drivers, all 23 I've put on there. I've not put Jack Doohan on there. I have put Ollie on there because he did 3 Grand Prix, which I think is enough to at least get some kind of a semi. I wouldn't have done if it was 2, but I think 3, I was like, yeah, I'll chuck Ollie in as well. So please fill out that form if you can. I'd really appreciate that. And that video will be coming later this week. Then I've got to react to my predictions from the start of the year, helmet tier list, end of season quiz is happening again this year. I'm looking forward to that. Also, I'm going to do probably next week, like a end of season Chinwag, which will be another live stream, TOMMO'S Race Chinwag. But I'll go through, who got the most banger drives from me and from you and blah, blah, blah. We'll do like the Bangers and Clangers Awards, okay, next week. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And then the quiz, the quiz will be out on like New Year's. Do I do it New Year's Day or New Year's Eve? I can't actually remember. But yeah, also, again, please, if you want to buy a T-shirt and you are in the European Union, okay, these T-shirts, these lovely spin arounds. Yeah, lovely T-shirt, Bosch. If you want to buy a T-shirt or a cap as well, and caps as well, Bosch, lovely cap, TRG, TOMMO'S Racing Goods, and you're in the EU, you only have 24 hours. It's now or never, okay? If you're thinking about it and you've not done it yet, it's now or never, okay? Get it done. 24 hours, tommosracing.com, okay? Please. Thank you. Much appreciate it. I think we're done. To all my patrons who support me on Patreon, I'm going to go live on Patreon about 10 minutes after I wrap, maybe 5-10 minutes after I wrap this stream. So if you do want to support me on Patreon and watch the Patreon exclusive live streams, you can. No obligation, and yeah, thank you all. It's been a good year this year. It's been fun. You know what? It was difficult. Like last season, inevitably, I mean, my numbers literally, like on these Chinwags, like they were like 30% lower, I think, just through domination and just through the same driver winning all the time. And I think that it's been a lot more interesting this year. And even though Max has won again, like I'm more than happy for Max to win every season as long as it's competitive and interesting. And yeah, so thank you all for sticking around. Thank you all for supporting what I do, because honestly, this is the dream job. To do what I get to do is an absolute privilege. So thank you. And you don't always have to agree with me. You know what? If you always agreed with me, then I would be running a cult, which is not the plan. This is Tommo's race Chinwag, not Tommo's race cult. Maybe it could be if you want it to be, but I don't want it to be. Okay, so don't always agree with me. But yeah, it's been fun. It's a pleasure as always. And again, plenty more content coming in December. January is going to be a bit more chill because the ad rates are low on YouTube, and kind of that's when I kind of take a bit of time off. I'll still be uploading in Jan, just less frequently. And breaking news, I'm sure we'll know hopefully in the next week about Checo, whether he'll be or who will be in that Red Bull next to Max. So once that news drops, I'll try my best to get on top of that, depending if I'm here or not. Yeah, I think we're done. Thank you all. Patrick, Pedro, PP, Rayner, Lowell, Crispy, played the game. Afchi, Juan, Cram, Joe, Ferox, Rosa, Brandon, Charmander, Christopher, Wingcap, Rayner, Awkward, Thomas, Mailer, Femel, Angus, Noah, Boop, Alexander, Lazylow, Alexis, Cody, Yash, Camille. Question, Tom, did Lewis overtake George in the same corner he was overtaken by Max in 21? No, he didn't. No, Max overtook Lewis into that tight left-hander, didn't he? Lewis tried to go around the outside of Max on the final lap of Abu Dhabi 21, but he didn't have the tyres, did he? Matthew, Zubar, Squibbles, OW, Lola, Joseph, Halita. Again, thank you all so much for supporting what I do. I've got a really dry throat. I need to have a good glug of water. Stay hydrated. Right. Buy the t-shirt. Bye.